Hi, I'm Mark Hayes, a naturopath with over 17 years of experience specializing in herbal medicine and natural treatments. Watch this video very carefully. I'm going to talk about a topic that will definitely be of great help to you. I didn't talk about it. Not to my doctor, not to my best friend, not even to myself. Not really. There's this thing that happens when you start noticing something's off with your body, especially when it touches something as personal as this. You find every possible explanation except the real one. You say you're tired. You say it's stress. You say work has been brutal lately, that you haven't been sleeping well, that maybe you just need a vacation. You keep moving. You keep pretending. And the months pile up. I was 43 when I first noticed it. Not dramatically. It wasn't like a switch flipped overnight. It was gradual, the kind of change that's easy to dismiss because it never announces itself loudly. My erections had gotten weaker. Not gone, not completely. Just less firm, less reliable, less like they used to be in my 30s. And alongside that, something else was fading too. My energy in the gym was dropping, my focus at work felt foggy, my drive in general had this dull, flat quality to it that I couldn't shake. I chalked it all up to aging. That's what we do, right? We accept these things as the price of getting older. We hand our vitality over to time and tell ourselves it's just how it goes. But something kept nagging at me, because these weren't separate things happening randomly. They felt connected, like pieces of the same puzzle that I hadn't been willing to look at together. The weak erections, the low energy, the reduced strength, the mental fog, they were showing up in clusters. And that pattern made me start asking a question I hadn't asked before. What if this isn't just aging? What if my body is trying to tell me something specific? That question changed everything. I started digging, not in a desperate way, in a methodical, almost obsessive way. I read studies, watched interviews with cardiologists and urologists, listened to researchers talk about men's health in ways that nobody in my life had ever talked to me about. And what I found was both alarming and, honestly, relieving. Alarming because the answer was bigger than I expected. Relieving because it meant there was actually something I could do about it. Here's what I learned, and I want you to really sit with this because it took me a while to fully absorb it. A weak erection is, in many cases, a cardiovascular symptom before it's a sexual one. Let me say that again. What you're experiencing below the belt may actually be your circulatory system waving a red flag. The mechanics of an erection are almost entirely dependent on blood flow. When you're aroused, blood needs to rush into the erectile tissue rapidly and stay there under pressure. For that to happen, your blood vessels need to be healthy, flexible, and capable of dilating on demand. When that process is compromised, when the vessels are stiff, constricted, or underperforming, the result is exactly what so many men experience and never talk about. Weak, inconsistent erections that feel like a shadow of what they used to be. And here's the part that hit me hardest. The same vascular dysfunction that causes weak erections is the same mechanism behind reduced stamina, muscle fatigue, brain fog, and low energy. It's all one system. Your blood is your body's delivery network. Oxygen, hormones, nutrients. All of it rides on the quality of your circulation. When that network is struggling, everything downstream suffers. Your muscles don't recover as fast. Your brain doesn't feel as sharp. Your testosterone production slows down because the very cells in your testes responsible for making testosterone, the Leydig cells, are also dependent on adequate blood flow to function properly. It's not a coincidence that men with poor circulation often also have low testosterone. These two problems are deeply intertwined. The molecule at the center of all of this is something called nitric oxide. If you haven't heard of it before, pay attention because understanding nitric oxide changed the way I think about men's health entirely. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that your body produces naturally, and its primary job in the vascular system is to tell the smooth muscle lining your blood vessels to relax and expand. When nitric oxide levels are high, your vessels dilate, blood flows freely, pressure normalizes, and every organ, including the ones involved in sexual performance, gets what it needs. When nitric oxide levels drops, the vessels tighten, blood flow becomes restricted, and you feel it everywhere. The problem is that nitric oxide production declines naturally with age. Research published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that nitric oxide bioavailability decreases significantly after the age of 40, and that this decline is accelerated by a sedentary lifestyle, a diet high in processed foods, chronic stress, and poor sleep. All things that describe the life of the average American man working long hours and not paying enough attention to his health. That was me. That was probably a version of a lot of you watching this right now. So the real question became, how do you restore nitric oxide production naturally? And this is where the investigation got genuinely exciting. There are specific compounds found in whole foods that have been shown in clinical research to directly stimulate nitric oxide synthesis in the body. The most powerful of these is dietary nitrate, and the richest natural source of dietary nitrate on the planet is beetroot. When you consume beetroot or beetroot juice, the nitrates it contains are converted by bacteria in your saliva into nitrites, which are then absorbed into the bloodstream and converted into nitric oxide. This isn't folk medicine, this is established biochemistry. Studies from the University of Exeter demonstrated that men who consumed beetroot juice before exercise had significantly better oxygen delivery to muscles, better endurance, and faster recovery. The same mechanism that helps athletes perform longer also helps restore the blood flow that drives sexual function. But beetroot is just the beginning. 2 amino acids, L-arginine and L-citrulline, work in a complementary pathway to boost nitric oxide even further. L-arginine is the direct precursor to nitric oxide synthesis. It's the raw material your endothelial cells use to produce it. L-citrulline, found abundantly in watermelon, is converted into L-arginine inside the kidneys, which means it actually delivers more sustained L-arginine to the bloodstream than supplementing with L-arginine alone. Several peer-reviewed studies, including one published in Urology, found that men who supplemented with L-citrulline for just 4 weeks reported significant improvements in erection hardness scores and overall sexual satisfaction. These aren't anecdotes. These are documented outcomes in controlled trials. Then there's pomegranate, rich in punicalagins and ellagic acid, potent antioxidants. Pomegranate protects the endothelial lining of your blood vessels from oxidative damage. Oxidative stress is one of the primary reasons vessels lose their flexibility and their ability to respond to nitric oxide signals. Pomegranate essentially guards the vascular infrastructure, making it more responsive to everything else you're doing. A study from the International Journal of Impotence Research found that men who drank pomegranate juice daily for 4 weeks reported improved erectile function compared to placebo. And ginger, something most people think of as a kitchen spice, has been shown in multiple studies to improve peripheral circulation and reduce inflammation in the blood vessel walls, creating a more favorable environment for blood flow throughout the entire body. And underneath all of this sits the hormonal foundation, zinc and vitamin D. Zinc is directly involved in testosterone biosynthesis. Without adequate zinc, the enzymatic processes that produce testosterone are impaired. And vitamin D, which most American men are chronically deficient in, has been shown in a study published in Hormone and Metabolic Research to be strongly correlated with testosterone levels. Men with sufficient vitamin D had testosterone levels nearly 25% higher than men who were deficient. 25%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between feeling like yourself and feeling like a diminished version of yourself. When I started incorporating these compounds consistently, first through food, then through a more concentrated approach, the change wasn't overnight, but it was real. Within the first few weeks, I noticed my energy in the gym coming back. My recovery was faster. I didn't feel like I was dragging myself through the afternoon anymore. And then, gradually, other things started returning too. The firmness, the consistency, the confidence that had quietly been eroding for years without me fully acknowledging it. I didn't feel like I had hacked something or taken a shortcut. I felt like I had finally given my body what it had been asking for. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in what I've been describing, the weak erections, the low energy, the reduced stamina, the feeling that your strength and your drive just aren't what they used to be, I want you to know there's a 100% natural supplement formulated specifically around these exact mechanisms. It combines the key compounds I've talked about, the ones with real research behind them, into a single formula built for men who want to address this at the root level. The link is in the first spot of the description. This isn't a magic pill. It's science applied with intention for men who are ready to stop ignoring the signals their body has been sending. What I want you to take away from all of this is something that took me too long to understand. The symptoms you've been brushing off are not random. They are not inevitable. They are not just aging. They are communication. Your body speaks through symptoms, and weak erections, as uncomfortable as it is to talk about, are one of the clearest messages your cardiovascular system can send. Men who experience erectile dysfunction are significantly more likely to develop serious cardiovascular events within the following decade. That's not meant to scare you. That's meant to reframe what you've been dismissing as a bedroom problem into what it actually is, a whole-body signal that deserves a whole-body response. The solution isn't complicated. It doesn't require extreme interventions or invasive treatments. It starts with understanding the role of blood flow, committing to the compounds that restore it, and making the decision, today, to take your health seriously in a way that most men around you are still too embarrassed to do. That embarrassment costs years. It costs vitality. It costs the version of yourself that you could be living as right now. Your blood vessels are not fixed. They respond. They adapt. The endothelium, the lining of your vessels, is one of the most plastic tissues in the human body, meaning it genuinely responds to the inputs you give it. Nitric oxide production can be restored. Testosterone levels can be optimized. Energy can return. Strength can come back. And sexual performance, the thing nobody wants to say out loud but everyone cares deeply about, can absolutely be reclaimed, not through desperation or shortcuts, but through understanding what was actually wrong and addressing it directly. If you want to go further than what I've shared here, if you want to explore the supplement that brings together the most evidence-backed ingredients for circulation, testosterone support, and sustainable energy, the link is waiting for you in the first spot of the description. That's the most direct next step for anyone who's ready to actually do something about this. I'm not going to pretend that talking about this stuff is easy. It wasn't for me. There's still a version of me that would have scrolled past a video like this, too proud or too dismissive to admit any of it applied to him. But that version of me was also exhausted, underperforming, and slowly losing pieces of himself he didn't know how to name. If this reached you today, it reached you for a reason. Your body has been patient. It's been giving you signals. Now you know what they mean. If this content gave you something real, a new way of looking at your health, a lead worth following, a conversation you've been needing to have with yourself, subscribe to this channel. There's a lot more coming. We cover men's health without the filters, without the shame, and without the corporate language that keeps important information buried. Real information, real science, real stories from men who decided to pay attention. I'll see you in the next one.